What's up guys, it's Will back again, and today's review is Transformers: The Last Knight. Transformers: The Last Knight is a sci-fi action film that was directed by Michael Bay and is the 5th installment in the Transformers film franchise. Okay, so this Transformers film primarily takes place in modern day, not long after the events of Age of Extinction, where Transformers have been outlawed and are being hunted by the government. Chaos reigns on Earth as humans and Transformers attempt to live amongst one another on this new chaotic Earth. But one day things get a whole lot worse when a group of Transformers, including Optimus Prime, decide that Earth needs to be destroyed in order to save their home planet Cybertron, and the rest of the film is spent watching some human and Transformer combat in a battle for Earth, while we also learn why the Transformers keep coming to Earth to begin with. Okay, so I don't think any of us were going into this Transformers film and expecting anything different from the first 4 installments. If we've learned anything from those 4 movies, and really Michael Bay movies in general, we knew that The Last Knight was going to have some really fast-paced action, explosive action scenes, keyword explosive, and bad basically everything else. And that's exactly what you get with The Last Knight. The action is exciting and cool to look at, but the acting is bad, the story is overcrowded and obviously bad, the dialogue is bad, and the editing is bad, among other things. And although there probably were some fans out there that were a little more optimistic about the prospects of this film, I think most of us expected it to not be good. But I think despite the low Rotten Tomatoes score, and despite the fact that I'm about to tell you how bad of a movie this is outside of the cool CGI robot fight scenes, you're probably still gonna want to see it because of those giant fight scenes that look pretty damn epic on the big screen. I mean, take a look at the box office numbers for the first 4 installments. The people have obviously spoken with their wallet, so why would the Transformers franchise change their formula in any way? I will, however, say that I believe that The Last Knight is probably the worst Transformer film I've seen to date, because while the action is certainly still there, and maybe on an even bigger scale than the previous films, it feels even more hollow than usual. And I think that's because I felt no connection whatsoever to any of the characters in any way. It really felt like all of these actors were completely mailing it in and were strictly there for the paycheck and nothing else. And even the Transformers themselves, I didn't really feel that invested in, and I think that's because this movie is overstuffed and overcrowded with so many plot lines and characters that it's impossible to latch onto any one. There's just so many things happening at once that it's impossible to really invest yourself in any of the seemingly innumerable storylines. The Last Knight is also paced pretty awfully. There's no sense of rhythm to this film, and it's really odd because this is a 2.5-hour movie that seems like it speeds through all of the important character stuff to just get to another brief action scene. The dialogue, as I mentioned, is horrendously bad, and the characters will say and do things that are just incredibly awkward, unfunny, and unsatisfying, which, to be honest, is pretty on par with the rest of the Transformer films, and the real consideration is whether you care or not. Transformers has never been a franchise that cared about good writing or good anything really besides the action. None of us really go to a Transformers film for anything else, I totally get that, but I just feel like there's a lot of potential here to actually make a good movie, but that seems to be a secondary concern for them, and it's all action and all money, and that's it. Something else you'll definitely notice is the editing. This is easily some of the worst editing I've seen from a huge summer blockbuster film like this, because visual continuity is violated left and right. The cuts are incredibly fast and sort of Resident Evil Final Chapter like, and the biggest problem I notice is the ever-changing aspect ratio, which isn't necessarily an editing issue, it's more of a cinematography issue, but still. If you see this movie in theaters, you're going to notice the black bars coming and going at the bottom and top of your screen. That's because The Last Knight incorporates 8 different aspect ratios throughout the course of the film. And when I say the course of the film, I don't mean from scene to scene, I mean from shot to shot. One shot will be in 16:9 with the full screen being taken up, then a second or less later you'll see a different aspect ratio with black bars on your screen, and then after that you'll see another smaller or even bigger aspect ratio with smaller or bigger black bars on your screen. There are a couple other things I want to note for you guys as well. Firstly, I really noticed a change in approach in terms of the humor this time around. It's still very hit or miss, I'd say, but the bigger distinction here lies in the target audience. There's a lot of cussing in this film, there's a lot of sexual jokes and references, and there's just a very clear targeting of adults this time around and away from the family-friendly vibe. So if you have a young child, I'd be cautious about taking them to see this movie because there's way more adult humor than I remember the other Transformer films having. Nothing too crazy that's gonna scar your kid for life or anything, but there's certainly plenty of jokes that are not necessarily suitable for young children. Something else I want to note note is that Optimus Prime is really not in this movie a whole lot. The trailers really sold this film as a sort of Fast and the Furious style plot where the leading good guy turns bad and his crew has to fight him off. That's the primary conflict for like a grand total of 5 minutes. You spend the vast majority of this film just venturing around aimlessly from character to character as they attempt to better understand the history of the human transformer dynamic. Following the humans for the majority of the screen time sounds well and good because it gives them something to do, but none of them are interesting or well acted besides Anthony Hopkins' character, who isn't really in the movie that much either. He's the only actor in this film that I actually felt gave a decent effort, and his character is just kind of there to dramatically spout off exposition. It's kind of a waste of a great actor. Before we recap, let me at least say that the action for the most part does deliver. The climax is huge, it's a visual spectacle, it looks fantastic on the big screen, and it's mostly pretty exciting. The preceding action scenes are alright, there's some fun to be had in them, but the last 20 or so minutes is where things actually start impressing you visually, and that's what you pay to see out of a Transformers movie. Mindless popcorn flick visual spectacle, and I can't say it doesn't succeed in that regard. But overall, it really just depends on what you want out of this movie. It's not a particularly good film, but most people don't need it to be. I did think it had some amazing visual spectacles and a very exciting climax. Sadly, I also felt the writing is really bad, the story is overstuffed, the pacing is terrible, and the editing is awful. I'm gonna give Transformers The Last Night a 4 out of 10 and recommend you pass on this one in theaters, but if you just don't care about anything but the action, then I think you'll probably enjoy this movie. So did you guys see Transformers The Last Night yet? What did you think of it? And if not, let me know why not. And also let me know your favorite Transformers film to date. I'll drop mine in a comment below. That's all for now though. This is WillFoxification signing off. See you in the next review.